Here at Use Your Words Podcast, none of us are knowingly foolish. Okay, Troll.
Yeah,
We have thousands of years of architecture we can go over.
Would
here.
you build your house on rock or sand?
Knowing Brewer, sand because it's cheaper.
Of course, sand.
Speaking of Second Amendment, Mr. Brewer, there, as I'm looking around and I see Johnson's gun and
Okay, now.
I see Brewer's gun as well. Mine's at home. Hey, calm down. So there's been a lot of interesting going ons with the Second Amendment here, because you mentioned how the First and the Second Amendment to defend each other sort of deal. I'm sure, Mr. Brewer, that you have been keeping up on things because you'd like to keep up on things relating to Second Amendment gun stuff sort of deal. Yes? No? Maybe so? Am I over optimistic here?
I'm currently worried more about my ability to finish school and get my certificates than I'm quite. Sadly enough, politics and media, they make it so exhausting to try to keep up with them that you literally only focus on the articles as your entire basis of ability to gather information. So if the title says this, they hopefully trigger your tick in your emotional box. They get you fired up about this. They hope you never actually read and find out that the title has nothing to do with the actual body and information that they're presenting to you. So, long story, I do know some states have voted into permitless carry.
Yep.
And I am for that, and I am against it. So I can
Okay.
possibly see where the politicians are getting their mindsets from.
So you're for it and against it. Now, like abortion, I expect it to be a little interesting on both sides. So I can understand why you're for it. Second Amendment, exactly. Is that correct? Just Second Amendment, open carry, or constitutional carry, I should say, not open carry.
So for example, for people who may not see eye to eye with us, this is my mindset. If someone's going to attack you and they have any advantage over you, okay, and let's say they're 5 feet away, and the difference between you being assaulted, killed, raped, molested, whatever it may be, because you don't know if they're approaching you at 5 feet. Like my distance to Paul right now, okay, is life or death for Paul.
Yep.
Now, Paul is much bigger than me, so he has a much better chance of being able to survive a potential attack from me, depending on what I would. If I just want to rob him,
Maybe.
all he has to do is give me his wallet. If I want to do anything else to Paul, let's say I want to torture, let's say you want to keep it completely.
Oh, wow.
There's nothing sexual involved. Let's say I just want to torture him. Let's say I want to pull his nails off or whatever. Let's say I want to.
Yeah.
There are some crazy people out there.
I know, but
Yeah, I know. I'm
Sorry.
sitting next to one.
But
go on.
you're one to speak. But anyways, Paul literally has a split second to decide potentially his life. What a firearm does, for you who may or may not agree, or may or may not have the same perspective as me, a firearm equals the playing field.
It's a great equalizer.
That's the intent of it. The intent of it is not to kill the attacker.
It's not as David Hogg said that you go around and kill humans.
No.
I don't know if you caught his latest little tweet kerfuffle.
I completely disregarded that guy after, because you could just totally tell it was politically motivated.
Oh yeah, he has no qualms about hiding that it is politically motivated. He recently put out a tweet. He's like, "Well, you need a license to kill deer. Why don't you need a license to kill humans?"
Because I'm not trying to kill humans.
What?
But he's being
he's
being, trying to grab you the attention. He's being headline seeking.
I take that back.
clickbait.
In a sense, my license, not even to kill people. I mean, I don't want to kill people.
I don't know anymore.
Bruh, I hunt because A, it's required for the environment, it's required for civilization, and as well as I'm going to eat what I shoot because it tastes good.
I mean,
For those of you who are against hunting, hunting is required to keep the ecosystem in balance. And for those of you who have any sort of doubts in that, look it up. And for those of you who refuse to look it up because you refuse to admit that hunting is actually required, you're the problem. If, for example, if too many deer exist, not enough food for the deer, and the deer are forced to come into our neighborhoods. Likewise, if deer are forced to come into our neighborhoods because that many of them exist, what happens? Disease spreads like wildfire because they don't have nutritional balance just like they should for their immune systems to perform like they should. And B, with so many malnourished deer, this is just deer. This is not including any other species of the animal kingdom in the state of Wisconsin or wherever you may be from. Now you have disease spreading like wildfire. You potentially could have new diseases arise from that. And the last thing you need is disease jumping from species to species to species, especially if it can jump to humans. So in essence, there's actually a science to it. DNR has proven it. Certain X amount of deer need to be killed, and most good hunters try to kill them as ethically as possible, meaning one shot is all that was required to end their life as short as possible. That's the goal of a proper hunter, and there's a lot of us because we don't want them to experience pain, and we have a X amount of target that we're supposed to eliminate out of their living requirements. There's a whole science to it. Trust me, it makes more sense if you do research on it on your own, because I can't tell you all about it in this. A, because I'm not fluent in it, and B, there's just that much information I don't want to take time away from this podcast for it. But it is definitely worth, and FYI, we have less hunters every year in the state of Wisconsin signing up to hunt. So if you want a higher chance of totaling your car, well, it's coming. Because more deer are going to be able to cross the road next year.
And we're already pretty high up there, although West Virginia beats us out for a number of car crashes involving deer.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, me and Aaron were talking about it because we're talking about because we were inspired by your wife's trip to somewhere warm recently, and so we were talking about Florida and iguanas, frozen iguanas falling on cars, and that got us talking about deer accidents and that.
But I mean, that's just it. Unfortunately, we wouldn't need to have a hunting scenario if humans weren't constantly repopulating and trying to spread into their habitat. So if you really want somebody to blame for deers having to die, you blame people who are buying houses in new suburbs. That's what you have to blame. The more we spread out, the more animals have to die. That's ultimately the discussion. I mean, if we don't, and believe it or not, folks, if we don't do it, no, that's serious. That's serious.
That's just how you said it.
If we don't, as hunters, take on wildlife, it's a shame for a hunter to shoot wildlife illegally. A, there are those that are out there, and those that you may listen, you know who you are. But B, to shoot wildlife and not take it or donate the meat, in my opinion, it is wrong too, unless you can identify that the animal you AKA harvested is diseased. Then there are appropriate processes in which you respond to the DNR on relating that information so they can take care of it to eliminate its impact to the environment. Right. But yes, I can keep going on and on.
Hunting lessons with Josh.
Look it up. It is needed for sustainability of the humans and animals.
Beyond the wonderfulness of hunting, then, and beyond the wonderfulness of David Hogg going, if you need a license to kill deer, why don't you need one to kill humans?
To me, that's just BS. I mean, in all honesty, as a concealed carry holder, my goal is not to. I hope I can die before I have to shoot somebody. In all honesty, I do not want to ever have to shoot. I don't even want to have to even put a bullet in a human being for the potential of having to save my life. Seriously, I mean, the only thing I ever want to put a bullet in is a deer because it is needed and because I want to fill my freezer. I mean, in all honesty,
He likes Bambi.
That or any other. She does taste really good.
Bambi's a he.
She tastes really good.
Both of them. They're both good.
My goal is to hunt to eat, and if I end up getting more than what my freezer can handle, my plan this year is to donate it, because that meat can easily go towards feeding a homeless shelter. That can easily go towards feeding some sort of government organization to where they don't have to buy processed cow. They don't have to spend that extra money. If I donate to them, they get it for free. And depending on who butchers it, if I butcher it, cool. If I pay somebody to butcher it and I donate it free, I took the chunk of money that it cost to butcher the animal. So that, that's my mindset.
Okay. So let's get back to where we were originally before we went off on a hunter tangent. Because you're like, I am both pro and against the constitutional carry.
Right.
So,
okay, yeah.
I think the terminology of militia has changed over the years. I think it's been snuffed up underneath our nose. I don't quite agree with what the modern terminology is of militia.
Okay, what do you think is the modern terminology of militia?
The modern terminology of militia is literally straight for it. A military force that is raised from civil populations to supplement a regular army in an emergency. Also a military force that engages in rebel or terrorist activities in opposition to a regular army, and in all able-bodied civilians eligible by law for military service. I think it has changed in the sense of, to my knowledge, based on what I have learned through history, a militia is a irregular force.
Okay.
Without, trying to think of the word. Without forced military serve.
Okay.
So, in other words, you may have an officer that is ex-military or current military that helps to organize this town unit. But the people in the militia are not required to do any sort of servitude other than that to reach a goal. So if it is a thing of you serve this many times, you get X amount of money, or in the time that this was written, we had slavery in various parts. It wasn't as popular. I wasn't say it wasn't as normal as it was until after the war. But if you were a slave, I remember seeing it somewhere. I don't know if it was that's a hard thing. And I can tell you something. I saw it in a museum, and I have no way of citing it, and which grinds my gears because I like to go to museums.
All right.
So let's say you're a slave, and yeah, you have the ability of fighting on behalf of your plantation, but because you fight in X amount of battles or X amount of time, you then achieve your freedom. But at any point in time, you can leave. That to me is a militia. A militia is some sort of military organization or organized by military in some portion, but you can desert without consequences. For those of you who don't understand what the term deserting is, it is to leave without permission. So common day, I don't think the American military does it, but they do it to a point of some sort of consequence. If you desert, let's say you join the army and you desert, there is some form of consequence that follows.
You're going to be brought up on charges. You're going to be court-martialed.
Exactly. Now, in some countries, I can't tell you for sure. Again, like I say in any podcast, always do your own research. Because these guys can always take comments on correction or new information that may become evident than what we were taught to in current years.
Oh,
Or
heck, I've even scrapped whole episodes we recorded because I was like, yep, facts have changed way too much afterwards.
exactly. Exactly. So do your own research and present the data to us. Present it to yourself so you are better educated, and we may be better educated too, because that's the last thing the government wants. But in certain countries,
Go on.
but at a certain point in time, I think it was World War I, that if you deserted, you were shot on sight.
Okay.
So in some places, I don't know about today, but I know back in the day, if you tried to desert, the officer was required to shoot you dead.
Okay. So let's bring it back. What is your definition of militia?
My definition of militia is an able-bodied group that may or may not be governed by a current or non-current officer of some sort of military rating, but has the ability to serve or desert in whatever may be needed.
Okay.
And
do you think that's the original meaning of militia?
Nobody lived back then to really to be able to tell, but I have a feeling you have something that might contradict me. So go ahead and say what you want to say.
So the Bill of Rights, right?
Yes.
Was based on the Virginia Bill of Rights, written by James Mason.
A Mason.
Yep. But he's one of the founding fathers, right? So he actually wrote commentary on the Second Amendment and what he defines as militia.
Go for it.
His definition of militia, and he wrote in this document, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people except for a few public officers. His view, the person who helped shape this originally in Virginia and the Second Amendment, viewed everyone, the whole populace, as militia, whether put together in groups or not. Now, it does say in the Second Amendment, well regulated, so it a little more structured is probably what they're implying here. But he does say that it's all citizens should be essentially armed, but it is to serve as well. So that's how George Mason kind of originally structured that.
And when I say officer X, officer governing it, I'm talking about somebody who understands a portion of structure that is required for some sort of fighting force.
Yeah.
Because you're in honesty, I mean, throughout history, you have ragtag people trying to do stuff, and it never really ends up good for them. In essence, in order for a fighting force to be able to succeed, there needs to be a level of discipline implemented into that fighting force. I mean, you can have a horde of thousands of people running with guns or with swords and shields, whatever time period you're talking about. But if there's no level of discipline and able to coordinate and to be able to apply tactics, you're just a bunch of uncoordinated people running. I mean, I'm trying to think of something. Let's say dodgeball. Let's say everybody's played dodgeball for the most part, right?
For the most part.
If it's a free-for-all and everybody grabs whatever ball they can or whatever throwing source or whatever projectile is used to launch to the other side to hit somebody to get them out, if anybody's just grabbing a ragtag, really, the only people that succeed are the people that actually have accuracy. You know, I mean, if the object is everybody throw back and forth, if 90% of the team doesn't have accuracy, and only 10% does, really only 10% are really actually hitting. Which historians could argue that the line battles were not only the most honorable form of fighting, but the most effective form of fighting. Honor battles are line, regiment regulated to where the entire garrison company, I'm not a army specialist to be able to tell you the differentiating,
right?
You know, but pretty much group of people approach each other on a battlefield and exchange either hand-to-hand warfare, firearms, spear, arrows, whatever it may be. They exchange until they're told to retreat, or the morale, because they're freaked out that they're going to die so quickly, and they retreat. in some eyes, that is the most honorable because you're approaching danger head on, and it is the most effective because your forces get a taste of what's really going to happen to them right away versus skirmish warfare. Because you can inflict somewhat even damage on both sides. But to me, it's plain and simple, and I hate how many people try to manipulate it. A well-regulated militia, okay, well-regulated.
Mm-hmm.
It could simply say a militia. A militia, in a sense, would mean any immediate joins of arms, right? I think we all can kind of simplify that a militia is civilian-based. It's not somebody who volunteers or is drafted into the main body army, okay? Because at the time that the Constitution was written, we had the Constitutional Army. We had the United States Army, which was separate from the definition of militia at the time. And so if you're sitting there and it says well-regulated, then in a sense that implies, even if it doesn't imply, militia is in a sense a representation of the people, the representation of the people that choose to take up arms. Because nowhere in history did you have to grab a gun as a militia. Traditionally, it was the men, the farmers, company owners that would take up arms because their livelihood was at risk as the invading, whatever it may be, comes into the town. Now, another name that I've heard from militia is called Minutemen.
Yeah, so Minutemen were kind of back in the day, especially back in your Civil War type, not Civil War, sorry, why did I say?
British War. I think they were more along lines of people who would quickly take up arms and shoot an invader without there being any sort of regular.
Oh, they were in the Revolution War. I was right. Okay, I thought I was wrong there for a second. but yeah, so essentially, Minutemen were a militia, and they were able to get ready real quickly there. Essentially, they were embedded in the towns that they were first, and they were kind of the first militia to arrive.
I guess you could probably think about it as the firefighters of Racine.
Could be Minutemen.
It would, in a sense, kind of be Minutemen. They're or police officers. I think police officers would be a bigger example of Minutemen. No matter what the situation is, chances are 9 out of 10 they're the first on the scene. They have basic emergency teaching for them to be. No matter what happens to you, they can A, secure the situation, B, help keep you alive just long before the paramedics show up.
Hopefully,
depending on what you stupidly have done or have unfortunately walked into. When it says a well-regulated militia, to me that means the militia is able to continuously practice what would be required of them in a situation, whatever that may be. But then it says being necessary to the security of a free state.
Yep.
I think we're more than, besides all the potential, well-regulated means the ability to continuate practice. Now, a lot of people will sit there and talk about how National Guard, in a sense, is the modern-day militia. But to me, it's not. Because militia, at any point in time, due to what I know about historically speaking, back then, you could leave a militia.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee that you had to be on the line when the militia were called. The militia was pretty much a volunteer force governed by somebody who knew what they were doing, in a sense, leading them.
Right. So it really
National Guard can't even leave the front line. If the National Guard are called to service, they leave. That's called desertion.
Right. So it comes down to the terminology of what does well-defined mean. So in the United States versus Miller, back in 1939, the Supreme Court defined militia as the militia is comprised of all males physically capable of acting in concert for the common defense. That's from 1939. Okay. Now, what does it mean by well-regulated mean? That implies nothing more than the imposition of proper discipline and training. Doesn't necessarily mean proper discipline training of a group. It means proper discipline training of your firearm.
Okay. Either way, that works against anything that they put out today.
So, in other words, in order for you to comply with that, from this reading of it from District of Columbia versus Heller, and that you should train with your firearm on a regular basis.
And I think anyone and everybody should. Reason being, in a standpoint of, I wouldn't be surprised how many people have bought firearms and still have not put a bullet down the barrel. I honestly just wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's one of I think a firearm's one of those things to where people who are unexposed to it, it's just one of those scary things. The media paints it as scary. The media paints it as something evil. It's just one of those things that until you get behind and you're able to understand
How it works.
It's a tool.
It is a tool.
It's a tool that has like a shovel. That's a killing weapon, but it's called a shovel.
Yeah, I could maybe behead someone with it.
Yeah, a gun. That could be a killing weapon, but it falls into the category of a firearm.
Yeah.
With a specific name depending on what type it is.
And once you realize how the firearm actually works and the safety's built into it and that, it makes it a lot like, okay, for example, while Mr. Johnson was in Colorado.
I was.
Yeah, you were in Colorado for a week there, right?
Beautiful.
I was actually finishing up my class. I had my actually my intro to pistol class and my concealed carry class that same week, both on the same week. That was entertaining to say the least. Especially going to the intro to pistols class, and there were actually a lot of old people there in the class.
Really?
Yeah, like I was the youngest in the class.
Really? You're old.
Shut up.
Be careful saying that to him now, man. Woo.
No, do not do that. That doesn't fall under the fact that it's not a fear. I'm not fearing for my life. But anyways.
Amy will be pissed because I don't have a life insurance policy. Just remember that. As soon as I sign for a life insurance policy,
hey, man,
free game.
She ain't gonna be mad at me. She'll be mad at you. That's
exactly. She'll be mad at you at your funeral. Anyways, but so I was the youngest one there at the intro to pistol class and all that, and it was entertaining some of the people there that didn't understand. Like there was a family there. When I say family, like the parents, the kids, their spouses.
Oh, wow.
Like it was a whole family affair. It was like a whole family and then me and one other guy.
So long story short, when they got together for Christmas, they said, "Yeah, we need to get ready."
Well, the thing was like, so I mean, the intro to pistol class and that, right? It was $40. Nothing crazy.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Nothing crazy. But as we're going through, those who were kind of anti-gun, you know, who had no idea how any of it worked and everything, they were like, oh, so there is safety built in. It's not just indiscriminate killing machine thing.
They were anti-gun going into it.
Like they were a couple
pretty against it.
Yeah, like the spouses.
I think a lot of people that don't have any desire to learn about it until they have to, kind of see it as that mindset. They're just kind of look at it as like.
Yeah, and the parents kind of force them into going because they're like, "Oh, we're all going. We're all going to do this." Nice, and as part of the class, you shoot 50 rounds on the range.
Okay,
that's included in the class. So, anyways, I took the advantage of that to go to my mom's house afterwards, where Xena was.
Yeah.
My mom, as I walk in, I put the target down. I was like, "Yeah, I did all right," and she's like, "What were you doing?"
Bang, bang.
And I explained to her what's going on, and I grabbed my bag, I put it on the table, and I start taking stuff out. I was like, you know what? Just to rip the Band-Aid off, I'm just going to clean it in front of her real quick.
Yes. That boy.
That went from I hate guns to, as I told you both, from my mom going, well, I'm going to buy you 500 rounds in a couple hours on the range for your birthday.
That is crazy.
I mean, it honestly is one of those things to where you don't have to. And I never want somebody to have to do something they feel uncomfortable about.
Yeah.
But the phrase is, don't knock it till you try it. I mean, kind of stands true with it. I mean,
2 point.
I hope I never have to use it in a defense situation.
I hope I never have to either.
Same.
And I'm not carrying it to try to, like, For example, my concealed carry instructor, he said, if you're walking down a street and you see some people coming towards you, I don't care where they're from, what they look like. If your gut tells you that you might run into trouble, you cross the street before you interact with them.
Right.
Because if you walk into them
Yeah.
and something happens and you have to pull out your firearm, if the jury is able to piece together, or if the prosecution is able to piece together that you knew you were going into potentially a sticky situation because your gut told you, that is just one more thing against you.
Right.
And in essence, you're not
Yeah.
carrying to employ justice. That's the cops and that's the justice. That's your judicial systems.
Right. And in
Process.
Wisconsin is a must flee state.
Yeah, sadly.
So if
Oddly enough, as much gun pro we are, we're still a flea state.
So yeah,
Right.
Wisconsin's interesting in that regard. Wisconsin is a shall issue conceal permit, but a must flee. Whereas
Which, I mean,
California, they're a may issue state. So I know I talked with Aaron about the
may,
difference.
yes,
I'm
yes.
assuming you know the difference between a shall issue and may issue states, right, Josh?
they reserve the right to may, in a sense, issue
Yep.
that right. They don't see it as a constitutional right. They see it as the state chooses.
Well, in California's case, it's your local sheriff that chooses.
And I've actually seen some situations with that to where they don't give you a yes or no. What they do is they literally hold your request on file for months and months on end, and they literally tell you. I mean, there's videos out there on YouTube and stuff of people going into the sheriff's department, and they're like, yeah, well, it's still under review. I was like, it's been under review for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's still under review. Can I talk to the sheriff or the superintendent or somebody? Nah, they're all out for the day. I can give you, I can let them know, and they may call you. You know, it's just one of those things where it's just like, it's sad because let's put it like I remember watching a thing on YouTube. And I like to quote YouTube a lot because there's a lot of stuff that the YouTube algorithm still has yet to figure out on how to silence, which is good. But YouTube didn't hear that from me. Somebody, Aaron knows. There will always be bad people in the world.
Oh
It's
yeah.
I do know that.
impossible to
All knows
have
that.
good people. And there will be good people that went through good processes that waited to get their rights, let's say, elevated. Because in a sense, all three of us have elevated rights.
And
We don't have
that
to.
comes with elevated responsibilities.
Correct. And even people with elevated rights.
I
in a
wouldn't
s-
call it elevated rights. You're exercising your rights that are guaranteed to you via the Constitution. You just have an official license to be able to do it in a state where there are restrictions. Because
Well-
Wisconsin, you can open carry.
Yes, but if you wanted to
Yeah.
conceal carry, aka have your gun loaded in the vehicle,
Yeah.
because you can't open carry in the state of Wisconsin in a motorized vehicle to where you can have the firearm and ammo within reach. They have to be separated in a sense to where if you're in the driver's seat or any other position in the car, you cannot effectively reach it and load it to be able to point it out the window. That's illegal.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we do have an elevated right. Because nobody's saying you can't. Now the question is, if you're obviously Amish wouldn't. Maybe Amish would do it. If you're in a horse and buggy, is that considered a motorized? Is that considered a vehicle, aka a motorized vehicle?
Well, not motorized.
I mean, I don't know the specifics on it. Can you have your firearm locked and loaded?
Yes, because I'm sure we're all concerned about a horse and buggy shootout.
No, legit,
GTA
legit.
5 with horse and buggies.
Okay, for those of you who
That'd be
don't
dope.
know, back in the day, the phrase shotgun originated from the person who sat next to the driver of the carriage. They held a shotgun. Aka the what we call navigator position these days, because if it was Indians or if it was robbers, their responsibility was to protect the people in the carriage.
What if they were Indian robbers?
That's like the worst scenario you could possibly have.
Anyways, go on.
Then you need a 50 caliber Barrett sniper rifle.
Yeah, because that existed back in the day where that would be commonplace.
Have you seen the movie Aliens versus Cowboys?
No.
Oh my god.
You gotta watch the
Don't
movie.
waste your time on it.
I'm kidding.
I think I'll pass. Anyways, continue on with your
But-
comment.
Yeah, I mean, we in a sense have so from the standard of what the state allows, we in a sense do have an elevated right.
I wouldn't. I would say permission, not right, but yeah. Anyways,
Okay,
go on.
permission.
It's verbiage.
We have the ability to do something because of what we have done that most people can't,
Well,
unless they do what we've done.
So they just don't choose
Go to a
do it.
2.5 hour class.
I know, as simple as that
That's
is.
kind of freaky almost, but yeah.
There's some states that require like 18-hour classes over like 2 or 3 days.
So this is where I'm like for it, and I'm also against it. Okay.
You're for and
Anything-
against the constitutional carry. Okay.
So, so constitution carry, being able to carry, that's just it. But I'm talking about concealed carry.
Okay.
Okay. So in a sense, I think there was a town in Georgia. This is sort of outside the concealed carry, but this shows the power of the Second Amendment. There was a town in Georgia, I believe, that had implemented that every single house in this town, unless they chose to apply not to, had to have a firearm in the home that everybody could operate.
Okay.
And what they found is, as people that they had interviewed and stuff that had tried breaking into the houses, they found that their house robberies went from nighttime to majority daytime. And they found that crime overall went down over the next few years. And when they interviewed people who performed house robberies and stuff, they said, "Why are you going towards the daytime?" And the robbers said, "Because it's not worth going at night when I could get shot. And during the day, everybody's at school and work. So it's like, if I'm going to rob a house, I'm going to rob it when nobody can use a gun." And that was the mindset on average that they found with these robbers, kind of proving the effect. And again, the gun isn't designed to kill. There are plenty. All right. Long story short, hunting rifles, for those of you who don't know, are much more effective at eliminating a target than 9mm handguns, 45mm handguns, and AR-15s calibrated in .223 or .556. For those who don't know, .223, .556 is the caliber in the AR-15 that is used in most mass shootings that the media reports on. So therefore, your chances of dying from that caliber are much, you have a more likely chance of dying by falling on a staircase than you do of being shot by an AR-15. For those of you who don't know that, look that up. That's actually a proven statistic.
But it looks scary, Josh.
Yeah, it looks very scary. I know. We should paint it pink. Then it doesn't look as scary.
Then it looks welcoming.
Yes.
But
thank
anyways,
you.
Continue on.
So what they found is that actually arming the households with whatever gun they chose, I don't know the stipulation or whatnot, but what they found is it created an equal playing field, because these people, you got to remember, everybody, if somebody's a criminal, whether or not they abide by the law and then one day decide to not abide by it, when people make a decision to do something that's wrong and they follow through with it, they're a criminal. Okay? If they are looking, and that's, I'm not going to go down that road. If they, let's say the law says, do not carry a firearm into the movie theater, but they've already wanted to go into the movie theater because they're angry and they want to shoot people up, what is that sign going to do? It's going to stop Paul, me, and Aaron from carrying our concealed carry in that movie theater. That's what it's going to stop. It's not going to stop the bad guy that is worried about a stinking plaque. He's going to go in shooting up. Regardless if a week before he was a concealed carry, law-abiding citizen. The matter of fact is, there are guns in the country. The matter of fact is, there are bad people with guns before the good people have turned bad. regardless of due process, people can get their hands on firearms in the country. And there are plenty of states that sit there and, like, for example, the state of Wisconsin, if you didn't know this, I could take my firearm and I could look at Paul and I can look at Aaron and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to sign one over to Paul. I'm going to sign one over to Aaron as a gift. In the state of Wisconsin, we don't have to report that. We don't have to do a legal background check. Do I necessarily say that more has to be done? No. Is it a bad thing if more stuff is put into place to prevent illegal transferships of firearms? No. Well, let me put it like this. Would it be bad if we implemented something else? No, it wouldn't be bad. Would I be against it? No, I wouldn't be against it. I'd like to know that if I'm transferring a firearm off to somebody, or if I'm selling a firearm, or if I'm gifting it to somebody, I know for sure they're not a criminal, because then I don't get interrogated by the ATF and whoever else.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, nothing stops anybody from getting something, turning around and being destructive. I mean, everybody in the state of Wisconsin saw what happened at the Waukesha parade. Somebody took their car and decided to run people over.
Yeah.
Claiming that they were running from cops. But if you do enough digging, you'd find out that their rap Facebook page, they actually were for, put it like this. If you can find it, you'll see it, and you'll go, whoa, this is something the media is not reporting. Long story short, they actually probably planned what they were doing, but the media doesn't want to bring it into the picture because it goes against the main narrative. Do some digging yourself. I encourage you to try to find it. If you can find it, I'm pretty sure Google and everybody has. Because what was it, like 2 or 3 days after that incident happened, Facebook took down their rapping profile page.
Which makes perfect sense because they were just involved in a crime in that.
I had classmates that were following it. They found it right away. You could identify the guy in his rap videos and yada, yada, yada. You could see the lyrics. You could see the comments he was making. And then 3 days later, it was gone.
Okay.
And the media wasn't reporting on it. And the media never dug into it. That's the surprising thing.
Well, it doesn't fit the narrative.
But again, going off the fact of, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. You can inflict harm any way you want.
Yep. Be it Aaron's truck or
a dumpster truck,
or Aaron's drumsticks. I'm thinking of those big, huge drumsticks back there.
Or what apparently recently happened in China. There was I don't know, China's always suspicious. But if you guys haven't heard about it, there was a airliner that apparently did a nosedive towards Earth and crashed into Earth. And China is possibly looking into it as being a pilot suicide scenario.
Oh, well.
It was a full-fledged Boeing airliner. I can't remember if it was 737 or what. But apparently it did a nosedive towards Earth and took everybody on board.
Interesting.
But then again, it's China.
So let's look at some statistics, because statistics are always fun.
Statistics are what the narrative hates.
They're kind of annoying to go into. But
why are they annoying to go into?
Because if you don't believe in them, they can prove you wrong.
Well, these statistics are, let's see here. From the, the FBI on the crime statistics. So let's talk first about the entire U.S. population, right?
Okay.
The entire United States population, on average, when this data was compiled and everything, right? There were 3,813 crimes per 100,000 people. They're not talking about gun-only crimes or serious crimes or whatever. They're just talking crime in general. Aaron stole a pizza from Quick Trip. That'd be a crime. Okay.
And you didn't share it, which is actually another crime.
Okay. So of the entire U.S. population, 3,813 crimes.
Out of 1,000.
Per 100,000.
Oh, per 100,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear the 100 part.
Okay.
Like,
now, we look at all that, right? Realize in the United States there are 16.3 million permit holders.
Okay.
Concealed carry permit holders across the various states.
Okay.
in the time range that this data was compiled, there were 703 crimes per year committed out of those 16.3 million by permit holders. Of those 703, 113 of those involved firearms.
Wow. That number's going
Are
down
you saying?
quite a bit.
Wait. Hang on.
I know. That's why I started with the general population.
All right.
3,813 per 100,000. Just crime in general. No, it's not specifying like.
Wait, so 300 and
18,013 crimes per 100,000 people.
So we'll just say 3,000 crimes per.
Almost 4,000.
Almost 4,000 crimes per 100, of which is in a sense saying a 4-to-10 ratio.
That's just in generic, everyday population.
Okay.
Total U.S. population. You take a look at the specific population for CCW permit holders. 16.3 million people hold a permit of some sort.
Out of 350 to 430 million people.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Of those 16.3 million, 703 crimes. Not per 100,000 or per 1,000.
Just, wow.
And then 113 of those 703 involved firearms.
Goodness.
1,000?
No.
No.
These
100.
113. 113. Not 1,000, not 100,000. 113.
That's crazy.
703 is 703. Under 1,000.
Of the 16 million?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I'm having. Maybe it's because I don't have food. Maybe it's because I'm tired. All right. So you have 4 out of 10 people are in a situation of crime.
Right.
Okay. There's 16 million.
Well, it'd be 4 out of 100.
4 out of 100.
Well, here, let's do math here. Right?
That seems-
4,000 divided by 4 by 100,000, right?
Yeah, that's 4 out of
That is 4.
4 out of 10.
It's 4%.
4%. So
4%.
4% of the population is involved in some sort of crime situation.
Right.
Okay.
And then for the conceal carry side,
There's 16 million permit holders.
yep.
That's not including people that open carry.
Right. These are people that have permits.
Permits. And that may not be every single state reporting every single permit holder. Certain states may have certain restrictions to have a permit that's reportable. So it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower. So 16 million.
Yep.
And so you're saying
And so it's 4.3 blah 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 e to -5. So you got to move that decimal point.
Mhm.
So 4 zeros before it hits the 4.
yes.
Wow.
Percentage involved concealed permit holders involved with some sort of crime.
Wow.
Oh,
That's-
so the
yeah.
chance that you, Aaron, or I are going to be involved in some sort of crime where we actually have to effectively use.
No,
no,
where
it's
like
us
you're
committing
committing
the
a crime.
Oh, so you go
We're-
bad.
We're law-abiding.
Yeah, so
citizens.
and that's not even involving firearms. That's you go and you steal.
Yeah.
And the
But then-
firearm may never even be within a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles
Right.
of you.
So of those 703 then, of
Only
those
100
703 people that commit a crime then, right? They're conceal carry
113.
permit holders. 113 of those 703 involve a gun.
That's close to nothing.
Yeah, that's wow.
That's incredible. I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah, so that's
I'm glad it's that low.
Oh,
Yep.
me.
So you look at that, right? And then they have another statistic. The number of police that commit some sort of crime per 100,000 is 103 crimes per 100,000 officers.
Oh, 3 grams per 100,000.
So you're telling me police are more dangerous than armed civilians?
Potentially, you always have to also take into account that police officer might not be willing to turn in a fellow police officer as well. So there might be a little bit more, or
But at the
something
same
like
time,
that.
too, police are also walking into situations to where they are more likely to be in a dangerous situation than
Yeah,
that of concealed carry.
yeah.
Right.
I am not trying to belittle anything that they do. They are doing
No.
everything that they need to do, and everything. And yeah, you look at some of these statistics, and it's amazing when you kind of look at everything. And I'm kind of jealous now. There's some states where you can buy lifetime permits.
Well, lifetime permit? I'm moving. Where?
So they cost a little bit more, obviously,
That's okay.
because you have to you have to buy out and pay out for those lifetime permits. So you could go and buy a lifetime permit in Indiana,
Ooh. Okay.
Louisiana, and Tennessee.
All right, I'm moving to Tennessee.
So there you go. And then the cheapest place is Alabama, $5.
Oh my gosh. For a lifetime permit?
No, for
I was like, what?
for a license,
Oh, okay.
$5 for a license.
We could easily jump into another topic, but I'm really refraining myself from jumping into that topic.
Good boy.
So
I really want to jump into it.
what's the topic?
It's a different topic.
What is it?
That's for another episode.
Okay, then shut up.
Okay. So what I find interesting, Wisconsin has just under 400,000 active permits, conceal carry permits.
Oh, okay.
You want to guess what state has the most?
Texas. No, I don't know.
What is the permit again?
A concealed carry permit
New York City.
that has the most. Not that costs the most, that has the most. State.
Florida.
No.
Okay, you say Florida, you say
I'm just gonna go for the big state and say Texas. But
Texas is third.
Oh,
Wait, I'm
wait.
sorry. They're second.
All right.
Okay.
What's third? I'm just curious what's third is.
Third is Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
What's first?
Florida.
Is it really?
Florida has 2.1 million concealed carry permits issued.
Wow.
Speaking of which, there was a study done, and there was like I want to say it's down in Florida. I can't remember. I hate this. I really do. I sit there and I find out, and I could try to do a quick research, but by the time it comes to me speaking, I'm not able to pull it up, or I can't find it like I did through the normal channels. There was one thing I found probably a year and a half ago. And I was like, "Holy crap! This condenses so much information into one spot." And now the website's not existent. Like literally, the website does not exist, which tells me somebody took it down or somebody took it off Google. I can't find it. I even had
What
it.
was it?
I had it in my bookmarks,
Oh.
and it's not there. I don't know how that happens.
What was it?
That or the people who own the site just didn't pay the renewal fee for the domain name.
Ooh. It can be that easy.
Possible, but it was
Nice.
it's pretty much everything that the Democrats have done dirty since the beginning of the country. Long story short.
Oh.
And it was literally a compilation with actual facts and proof of, based on party votes and stuff like that, showing what they were and weren't for. And I was like, holy crap, and that was I literally typed in dirt on Democratic Party. I was just curious, and I found that, and I'm like, holy crap. And I typed in dirt on Republican Party, and I probably spent twice as long looking for dirt on the Republican Party than I did the Democrat Party. And I was like, holy crap. Like, the Republican Party was built to be the opposition of the early Democratic Party. Long story short, nowadays it's going to take you a lot more research to figure out that dirt. But
You do know that you could probably go back to the Wayback Machine, enter in that URL, and pull up that site.
I don't know the URL.
You said you have it bookmarked.
It's not bookmarked anymore.
It's probably in your bookmarks, just lost.
I saved it. Maybe it is. I hope it is.
But anyways,
So
any other comments on concealed carry then?
Concealed carry, I love it.
Because
this is kind of where I sit there and I'm like, I'm for it, but I'm against it. And I'm kind of a hypocrite on myself. I'll be 100% honest with you, because during a pandemic, I honestly don't even think I went once over a course of a year and a half, pushing 2 years. I went to the range,
Mhm.
but then again, during that time, I really did not carry I carried next to little.
okay,
Next.
But then recently, within the last 3 months, I probably went, in a sense, once a month. I can't even remember how many times I've went.
To the range?
Yeah,
I mean,
once we went
we've
back to
gone
back with you,
twice.
and then once we went with Paul and Amy.
yeah, and I'm looking at going at least once, maybe twice a month now.
Uh,
And I looked at it, I was like, you know what? It's worth it. I'm just going to buy the membership because
Yep. Yeah, at that point, Amy as well. And if they get that archery store set up here soon. They may be expanding their range to adding more lanes because they have no need for putting the archery range in the main building if they got that secondary building.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll want to do the VR shooting training in those extra lanes.
I mean,
they do offer that, by the way.
in all honesty, any training is better than no training.
Yeah.
But the one reason why I'm partly against people with CCLs is I do know some people that have gotten the CCL and feel like, oh, well, I have this right and I have that right. And I'm just thinking to myself, can you even aim? And that's where I say I'm a hypocrite myself because during the pandemic, I really did not go, partly because I didn't have that much ammunition, but at the same time, too, it was expensive.
Yeah.
Really, really expensive.
I was talking to a buddy at work and I was like, yeah, my new hobby is expensive.
And that's where I've kind of thought to myself, somebody told me, it's like, you can't put an expense on life. And I'm like, you make a really good point.
Yeah.
To a point, yeah.
So, I mean, I look at them like it's essential, getting, the safe at home and all that. I have to get a car safe still.
I got one. I just got one recently just because of school and stuff like that. So technically in the state of Wisconsin, look it up yourself. But technically in the state of Wisconsin, what was it? They were looking, I think it was Wisconsin that was looking at passing a bill that allows you to be on school grounds, not entering the building, but allows you to be on school grounds with a concealed carry, aka being a parent picking up your child.
Interesting. I haven't heard that one yet, but I'm sure that will get a lot of controversy if it even sees a live day.
But again, you can't enter the building in a sense. Like, for example, I think concurrently, if you're so on the street that borders the school and you get pulled over, you can get arrested for concealed carry.
It depends. Is it school ground or not? If it's school ground, yes. If it's not school ground, and when they even mean the streets that belong to the school.
Which, how do streets belong to school? If the streets are government owned, in a sense, they all belong to school.
Yeah, but there's school zones.
I was told that school zones are represented by 1,000 feet off at the edge of the school property, which that's a lot of streets.
So the only exceptions to that are if let's say you live across the street from the school.
In your house.
No, you could be on your yard still.
Oh, yeah, that's your private property.
Yeah, so you could do that. So,
but the idea behind it is, if somebody's coming to pick up the kid and they got out on them, you in a sense can't, it's unfair to make them park a block away to pick up their kid.
Or you park a block away and put your gun away.
But the one exception is by having your gun in a locked compartment other than your glove box, because that's not considered a locked compartment. So that's where I ended up getting a car safe. It's not really, let's put it like this. As long as it is in a spot that is lockable, that's what matters. And somebody at school was saying a terminology locked by the Wisconsin Supreme Court has been even specified by something that has been zipped.
There you go.
In a sense, something that is not easily seen and easily grabbed with immediacy, I think is the intent of it. Because obviously most car safes are slid underneath the seat and there's safes cabled to the seat themselves. So unless you come in chopping off the cable and running, then you have to pry open the safe to get at that point, if somebody's wanting to do something, it looks suspicious by that time.
Yeah.
But part of me is against people with concealed carry because if they sit there and like, oh, but I got a concealed carry, I don't need to do any training. It's like, I have definitely learned over the last few years that training is absolutely worth it. And I am in the process of possibly doing not only trauma classes, but pistol defense classes, trying to find those in the state of Wisconsin.
I say,
Illinois.
I have I don't know if are you part of the USCCA?
I am a part of the
They go to their directory. Yeah. They have that.
And that's something I got to look into, but I'm also looking for,
I don't know about trauma classes.
But that's the other thing. I'm looking for trauma classes because one person made a good point. If you can cause a bleed, you should have every responsibility to potentially stop the bleed too.
Yeah, that was interesting in my class because legally you're required to render aid if, and the wording is if safe to do so.
Yeah.
And my instructor was like, it's like, honestly, he's like, I would not say it's safe to do so if like the person attacked you or whatever.
Yeah, but if it was
but at the same time, I'm thinking like, I also don't want to have to be responsible for the person's death.
I mean, at the
Shoot
same
'em
time,
in the
too,
knee.
if there's a straight bullet that goes flying,
Yeah.
that's always a chance. It's always a chance. Especially the farther distance that you get away from somebody. If the attacker's hitting you from 15 feet, 25 feet, a straight bullet can easily hit a bystander. That's the reality of the situation. Again, I hope I never have to pull my gun and point it at a human being. I don't ever want to. But at the same time, too, if that bullet hits somebody, or let's say not even you, let's say you're a concealed carry holder
Yeah.
listening, and not even you pulled your gun, but somebody else pulled their gun, wouldn't you want to know that you can save somebody's life? I would rather know that I could walk into this scenario without my concealed carry firearm. I may not even be strapping at all. But if I walk into a scenario, I'd like to know that I can at least contribute to somebody's life and be able to save it. Because ultimately, all you have to do is slow the bleeding and or stop it until paramedics arrive and then they take over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at that what you're talking about, Wisconsin legislature and the school zone thing. I don't know how they're gonna pass that since that's a federal law. That would override it.
I don't know. That's something.
But yeah, so you got that.
If you got a concealed carry or even an open carry, if you carry your firearm, you trying to think of the word.
you take on a lot of responsibility
You do,
and you
and
take on a lot of also it's not even just responsibility. You gotta be a little more critical of every situation that you're involved in. One of the things that was definitely brought and he said is you have to analyze every situation and look at it from the perspective of how was I involved in this and was I involved in such a way that could be construed that I contributed to the situation that it's in? Because if you are, there goes your self-defense.
yes, I guess the biggest picture is too if you're looking at like I was thinking about it when I was in Milwaukee one night and I pulled up to a stoplight and I'm like, if I get a car that comes in front of me and a car that comes in behind me and they're looking at carjacking me, I may not even know how many guns I got pointed at me, but at that point, put your hands up, walk out of the vehicle. If you got your gun on, you put your hands up, walk out of the vehicle. Because if they just want your car,
Yep.
they
And in
give them the car. Like seriously,
well,
if they give them their
in
car.
Wisconsin, you have to.
Because
Otherwise,
the castle doctrine doesn't apply to your vehicle outside of your home. All I have to say, if you're a female and you're about to get car robbed, here's the situation. If you got more people than one person looking at you, I mean, that's your call. But if you're a female and you're about to get car robbed, you cannot evaluate fast enough if you're getting car robbed or if you're about to get grabbed into sex trafficking. I think that's a no-brainer at that point.
if you feel for fear for your
Your
life,
you have the ability to employ self-defense.
Georgia, if you hadn't looked, is they just passed a law. They sent it to the governor to allow carry of concealed guns without licensing at all.
Yeah, I've heard about that. A few states doing that.
Yep, more and more are starting to do that as again constitutional carry. So for that, without any license or anything, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, from a standpoint of going back to the right to bear arms.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the sad thing is parties will choose to dissect any sort of amendment to be able to benefit their agenda, their narrative, their bills that they're writing in any way possible, which is sad. At the end of the day, no country that founds itself, in my opinion, with my limited history knowledge,
Okay.
which is greater than some people. Why in the world, as a founded new country, would you write in the ability of being able to allow the body of the civilization in which the country employs to have the right to bear arms, in essence, gives them the ability to overthrow the government? I mean, all throughout history, you have Venezuela, Australia, Germany, World War II. When good citizens turn in their arms, they lose them for good. And
Yeah.
there are many more countries besides that. It's just like, why would the founding fathers create that if the intent wasn't for them to carry it to protect themselves from a tyrannical government, which is exactly what they were running from. They were running from a king, a sole dictator that dictated everything. Now let me put it like this: are there disadvantages to every single scenario out there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guns out there in the mass allow people to use guns for chaos.
Yeah.
Cars in the mass allow cars to be used for chaos. That actually be an interesting stat. How many more people are killed by car accidents a year versus guns?
So I have a question for you.
Go for it.
So when we were talking about abortion, you said you didn't like the Texas abortion law because it created snitches.
It
Right?
creates
Yes.
Snitches.
For the Texas one? Okay.
Yeah.
I
Right.
wasn't a fan with the fact that it was trying to.
Right. Let me finish here before you continue on,
Go
okay?
ahead.
Because anyone can go back and listen to your talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So in California, they actually introduced a law in February, basically doing the Texas abortion ban snitching law, but with guns. They introduced a bill that would allow private citizens to sue anyone who manufactures, distributes, transports, imports into the state, or sells. Now, here's the key part about it. It's not just any gun. Assault weapons, in quotes, because you need to define that, or so-called ghost guns.
All right, let me tell you this: the whole ghost gun
Uh-oh.
thing, even New York's doing it too. It's absolutely stupid. Absolutely stupid.
Okay, continue on. Why?
Okay, here's why the ghost gun bill is absolutely stupid. What was it? I think it was Maryland. A guy traveled to New York.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Pennsylvania.
Okay, so a guy traveled from one state to
A
another.
guy traveled from one state to a eastern state to sell some other dude a bunch of firearms, and the ATF caught him.
Okay.
Okay. And it's not necessarily that what he was doing was illegal. Besides, I think one or two things. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, guy was doing a business. Whether or not it was sketchy, whether or not it was through standard process, procedure, practice, he was a businessman. And some people are like, what? What do you mean business? Okay, so an entrepreneur is somebody that finds any and every single example that they Well, an entrepreneur is somebody who finds any and every possible path to create money. Plain and simple. Regulations, keep them within a certain parameter. Like you got, believe it or not, you got actual scammers in the United States that are scamming not only you with those crappy phone calls, but elderly people because they actually believe banks get to do it. Literally, there's a whole documentary on it. They believe banks are doing exactly what they're doing, except they're doing it legally. And they're like, well, if they can do it legally and the system works for them that way, then why can't I do it illegally? It's a really skewed mindset. They're like, why can't I scam people out of their money if banks can do it legally because they were a part of the system? That's their mindset. People literally have that mindset. But here's how the whole gun thing isn't going to work.
Tell me.
Okay. Unless you have this AI that is in every single 3D printer, every single engineering software that is able to detect any backhack. Okay, so first off, in order to make the whole ghost gun thing actually worth it in a sense, and apparently was it April 1st, the ATF regulated that upper receivers on AR-15s get stamped because currently up to this point, only lower receivers were stamped.
Okay.
And what that means is in order to get a lower receiver or the lower half of the gun where the trigger and the grip is, for those who don't know, you had to go through a gun store and get a background check and yada, yada, yada. But the upper part where the barrel and the loading mechanism was, that you could have shipped right to your front door. And the goal behind it is you can buy as many upper receivers of the gun as possible. You can't do anything with them because you don't have the trigger mechanism in the lower part of the gun. But since ghost guns came out, that allows for people like us three or you yourself to buy a 3D printer, buy a CAD program, and actually 3D print the whole entire lower receiver, so you never had to buy it, then so you also know that any purchase that is made at a gun store is actually reported directly to the ATF. And the ATF is the governing body, for those you don't know, that monitors tobacco, firearms, explosives, alcohol, yada yada yada. They're in a sense the policing agency of that. So the lower receiver is used to pull the trigger, which strikes the bullet. Without the lower receiver, you just have a bunch of metal. Well, ghost guns allow you to print a lower receiver to pull the trigger to fire the bullet, which in a sense, it makes sense. You know what I mean? It's like, if people can do it all the time, bad guys can do it too. But who cares about laws? Good guys following the laws. Us three right here, we care about the laws because we don't want to we don't want to disobey the laws. We don't want to walk out of the law. We don't want to walk into a scenario to where our standard day of life can be jeopardized because we're not following the law. But guess who doesn't care about the laws? Any person who wants to commit a crime, period. That's what just mind blows me about politicians. Is each party could sit there and completely obliterate each other based on those statements of a criminal doesn't care. The only people who are going to care are law-abiding citizens. So in essence, when 3D printing technology came about, and as 3D printers become more and more and more advanced to the point where they can be more and more detailed, there is no way that you can govern ghost guns out of criminals' hands. It is impossible unless you completely destroy the 3D printing.
Well, and you're talking about just the 3D printing side. You can go, like, I'm at this website right here, which probably is going to get me, well, no, it's going to get Aaron flagged, and his family flagged, right? I can buy a fully polymered frame, 80% frame.
Yeah.
Already assembled. I just would have to buy the top parts, obviously. But for $149 for a Glock.
Yeah. It's called a Glock 80.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah. So right now you can buy this, and then, 3D printing, that's going to be a whole other thing. And people are like, oh, but 3D printing, because a lot of the pressure is contained in the barrel. It's not in the receiver, the lower part. That's going to be just fine.
Then the question is becomes, well, why don't we regulate the upper part of the pistol, upper part of anything? In my opinion, the hardest thing to replicate would be the barrel.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to be able to 3D print that.
Huh?
You're not going to be able to 3D print that, at least with current tech.
No, not with current technology. Not unless you have an actual metal printer.
Even then, you're going to need a very good metal printer, not just a cheapo one.
That, or you have a very, 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 very big barrel.
Okay.
Long story short, for those who don't understand, think of a pipe. Okay, a metal pipe, plumber's pipe. And it has an explosion that rains in the several tens of thousands of PSI. Okay. It needs to be able to contain that. So that's very hard for anything modern day to do without the appropriate metal machining, forging, alloying materials. There's a lot that goes into it. Everything else on a gun is not that hard to make. But the reliability on that's a different story. But in other words, if a criminal wants to build something, they can build something. And even if the government puts in place that there needs to be certain software designed to detect the creation, report the creation, and to stop the creation of different types of engineering stuff inside the software, aka to prevent it from being printed, all it takes is a back-end hacker to go in.
I say us tech people will find ways around that easily.
Oh, yeah. And that's the biggest thing we have to worry about in today's society is how easily technology can be reverse hacked, because it is something that is always changing.
Yep.
Always. So as much as somebody creates something new, somebody understands how to find all the weak spots in it. And then when they figure out how to cover the weak spots, somebody figures out how to go through all the areas that have been toughed up. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. Well, we don't understand. The only person at this table that can understand that in comprehension is Paul. But ghost guns, trying to ban ghost guns and not finding a way to enter them into the market effectively as a reality of this is our new situation is to me absolutely stupid.
So, okay. Let me ask you this then. What would you say if you had to have a background check every time you bought ammo?
Ugh. No.
Then I'd be buying a lot of ammo every so often.
California is, I'm trying to remember, and I'm trying to find the article. They're either trying to do it or it's already in place in certain areas.
To have
Where
a
you have to-
background check every time you buy ammo.
Yeah.
Every time, Aaron. Then I'd be buying it by the thousands.
Well, that's the thing, they wouldn't allow you.
They
to, though.
probably wouldn't allow you to.
It's just
They'd be like, you get 150 round box per month.
yeah, probably, honestly, because I mean, just walking into the store by us, it's like you can only
Yep.
get so many at a time. Now,
And-
granted, that's per day.
And California is right now in the process of introducing at least 24 more bills into gun control. What happened over in Sacramento recently?
I don't know.
There was a shooting or something like that.
Yep, there was a shooting. At first, it was called a mass shooting, and now it's called more of a gang violence shooting.
Okay.
Someone actually converted.
Oh, I heard about that. Yep.
Converted a pistol into full auto mode. The news labeled it a machine gun.
Oh my god.
In quotes. I put that in quotes.
And what was it? I think I remember seeing that article, and they were like, "Machine guns shouldn't be allowed." And I'm like,
What did he do to it?
"Well, hang on."
I don't know. He modded it somehow.
He modded it somehow to allow it to cycle on its own without having to reset the trigger.
Right.
And I was reading how they were talking about how they were doing it, and I'm like, I can't even do that with mine. What the heck
Okay.
are they talking about?
Yeah.
They were talking about changing this portion or something like that. If I remember correctly in the article, it was talking about changing that so where it just slides back and forth. And every single time it slid forth, it automatically slid the hammer forth. In a sense, igniting the next round.
Yeah.
It just do with one pull. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, bruh, machine guns are illegal. No bill is
Yeah.
going to prevent somebody
From making one.
Yeah,
from making one.
And even places like NPR and all that are going, hey, you know what? California already has the toughest U.S. gun laws. What else can lawmakers do?
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's like you already have all this, and then they're like, so we're going to try to do like 24 to 40 more laws.
Okay, let me hang on. Where did they go to shoot?
The Sacramento shooting?
Yes, where did they go? Where were they?
I would have to go back and read that again, but I think it was downtown Sacramento, outside.
Where do they talking about? Like where the thing happened? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Whereas most shootings in the United States of America, where have they happened? They have happened in areas of mass congregation. They have happened in areas that it literally says on the front door, weapons not allowed, and has a picture of a firearm and a knife. That's schools. That's movie theaters. That's parks. That's anywhere open to where you can't effectively react in a good enough time. I mean, if somebody's shooting from, like the LA shooting, if something's shooting up from a window up in the,
LA shooting.
Yeah.
What was the LA shooting?
Los Angeles shooting, they were shooting from a hotel window.
That
wasn't that Las Vegas? Yeah, that was Las Vegas.
Was it Las Vegas?
Yeah.
All right, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Shooting from a hotel window
Into the concert.
into a crowd.
Yeah.
And that was used with a 223-556, and a lot of people survived.
He had a lot of guns.
That's
I
what they
thought.
say.
So yeah, it just says that it was like around a street corner area. So outside.
But see, this is the reality we live in. We live in a reality where people can do harm in any means necessary, and I hate to say it, a firearm is kind of the easiest way to do harm. But at the same time, too, I would rather have to live in a scenario where it is a Wild West than I have to live in a scenario like it is China. Because what I tell people all the time is, let's say they're opposite of me, which traditionally is going to be Democrat. I swing more Republican, but I'm absolutely willing to listen to your points, and I'm absolutely willing to discuss it. Let's say you're Democrat.
Okay.
you're listening, you believe more in democratic views. Imagine if anything and everything about your belief of being Democrat, liberal, was illegal and it was punishable by death. Would you like to live in a society like that?
They probably wouldn't.
I wouldn't want them to live in a society like that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I mean, as a Republican, I wouldn't want you to live to where your views and everything is constantly oppressed. I want to have discussions. I want to have back and forth. That's the only way for countries to survive, is to have back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Once you go a certain direction long enough, you start going too far and it gets crazy and it gets far left or right, depending on which side you're going. And
Well, and it's not usually based on fact once it's to that point. It's all on
No,
emotion.
yeah, it's all emotion or it's all specific ideology, even if there's no statistics that back it. And that's one of the things that's like, people are like, oh, well, you can't do this or your opinion is offensive or this. And it's just like, hang on. The only reason why you can say my opinion is offensive is because of the First Amendment. And I tell them, I say, if the GOP were to come out and say that we are going to be the next dictators of the world, I'd be like, heck no, you're not. I mean, as much as I don't agree with all the stuff on the left side of the spectrum, I'd rather it literally be back and forth every 4 years than one party ruling for 100 years.
Yep, and you got one side that would not mind ruling for 100 plus.
I'm pretty sure both sides wouldn't mind ruling for 100 years, but one is making it very evident very quickly.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And so that's kind of just my stance on that. It's just like, I don't know, man.
So what, Aaron?
Apparently that guy had 23 weapons in his room from the Las Vegas shooting.
Oh yeah, I remember the Las Vegas shooting was just crazy. Just the number of things going on there was kind of crazy.
Somebody broke down the percentage chance of you actually dying, and it was like super low.
Well,
I mean, granted, getting hit anywhere with a bullet is a chance of having lifelong complications.
Oh yeah,
I'm just saying. But
there was,
in a sense of life or death scenario,
so they're saying that there was 58 people killing 58 people and wounding more than 422 others.
So probably, I wonder those 422 others that were wounded was a result of direct from the gun wound, or was it due to like trample and all that?
Trampling and all that.
Yeah,
stuff
so
too.
there's that happens. Well, the secondary fallout casualty.
But shooting, it's saying firing more than 1,000 rounds. That's nuts.
Again, the full auto conversion.
The bump stock thing.
People will find a way to do it.
Oh, no, regardless.
Well, I mean, let's put it like this: even if, let's say, everybody that was hit, this is 400, so 58 people died, right?
Yeah.
Divided by 400, how many people were actually?
Well, it's 400 injured plus 58 dead.
Well, there was more than 400 injured, but let's just say how many people actually died from gunshot wounds versus being trampled, because it's really easy to die from being trampled.
Well, yeah, in a crowd like that, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, so if you have 400 people that were injured, 58 people that died, you're literally looking at a 14.5% chance of dying from a situation like that. That's actually really low, and that's not even. And I'm not trying to paint light of the situation. I'm trying to paint the reality in which politicians choose not to paint, because they know if they painted the actual reality of gun crimes and statistics, it would backfire any push, any belief, any bill they tried to push through.
Okay, so I have some more information here.
Yeah.
From the shooting, there were 58 immediate deaths. All those were gunshot wounds.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, 58.
Immediate.
Yeah.
There were total, they have accounted to 61 deaths total, but 58 that were like immediate. So
they were shot.
They were shot. Those are definite shots. Okay. Approximately 867 people were injured. 411 of them were gunshot or shrapnel injuries.
Wow.
So that is decent amount of people that were. Unfortunately, they don't tell you how many people were at this thing,
Right. Well, it was, I mean,
but there was a lot of people.
Yes,
but
it's Vegas is a big concert,
but it was still.
So let's
still a bad situation all around that occurred.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
I agree with that. But you got to look at statistics. So 411 people, right, were hit by
shrapnel,
were injured by whatever, right?
bullet to
They
some
were
degree.
some sort of gun-related issue.
Yeah.
58 people died immediately, and 61 people were dead at the end of it. So we'll just go ahead and give it a benefit of the doubt and say 61 people died due to results of the bullets flying. Okay. So if you add that number to the amount of people that were injured via the shrapnel and the bullets and stuff, that brings it up to 472 people were affected. Okay.
Yeah.
Out of the affected people, 61 people died, which gives you a mortality rate of 7.7%.
Okay.
So in a sense, and that's not even putting that number, and this is where I get an issue with the whole COVID numbers relations. That gives you an example that only out of 472 people did you have a chance of dying. Now, if you put that into the amount of people that actually got injured, and then you put it into the amount of people that actually were there, it's probably even less.
Yeah, but
it's just a mass chaos run to the exit, and unfortunately, people got hit.
Right.
Either by other people or by metal. And whatever shape or form it took.
Yeah.
So, again, it's one of those things to where the media likes to paint it. Guns pointed at people is never a good thing.
No.
Unless it's war. Even then, it's not a good thing.
It's not good, but it's...
No, but depending on the mindset of the enemy, it's sometimes not a bad thing.
So, in 2017... there were 22,000 people approximately in attendance.
22,000.
Yeah, at that festival.
500 people actually got hit. 1,000 rounds were shot. I'm willing to bet it was a lot more.
Well, it said more than 1,000.
Okay, more than 1,000.
Yeah.
So,
because he did start off slowly with his shooting, like couple single bursts.
Yeah.
It said, okay. So at approximately 10:05 p.m., it says he fired over 1,000 rifle rounds.
Yeah.
He initially started off with a few single gunshots before firing in bursts that usually range from 80 to 100 rounds in each burst.
Jeez.
Many people mistook the gunfire for fireworks.
Yeah. Until they were covered in...
Yeah.
Well, until I saw people running, and then they're like, wait, frick, what's going on?
Well, until I see people dropping.
The gunfire continued with some momentary pauses over the span of 10 minutes and ended by 10:15 p.m.
That's crazy.
In addition to shooting at concert goers, he fired 8 bullets at a large jet fuel tank at the Harry Reid International Airport. 2 of those bullets struck the exterior of the tank, with 1 bullet penetrating.
Yeah, that's not going to do anything.
The fuel did not explode because jet fuel is mostly kerosene. Yep.
Wow.
Police officers were initially confused where the shots were coming from: the Mandalay Bay, the nearby Luxor, or the festival grounds.
Yeah.
There are also multiple false reports of additional shooters at other hotels on the strips.
Oof.
Officers eventually spotted the flashes of the gunfire from the northern side of the Mandalay Bay and responded to the hotel by 10:12 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was that was interesting. I remember that coming in the news.
Yeah.
And even as a CCW holder, that's far out of effective range for us.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, you run.
He was about 490 yards.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you're not hitting that.
Unless he's got something scoped. I was going to say, unless he's got something scoped in that room, he's shooting fish in a barrel. He's not even within range.
Yeah, the jet fuel tanks were about 2,000 feet away from where he was.
Wow.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, if that was gasoline tanks, boom. Kerosene only ignites under heat and compression.
Yep.
Without that, no boom. Gas goes boom just from the right amount of heat and fuel vapor.
I'm going to throw Aaron's candle on that gas tank. But do you have any more comments on conceal carry, on guns in general, on gun laws, open carry, conceal carry? More states passing conceal carry now, it seems. I think we're
I'm not
almost at
against it.
50% to
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
carry and constitutional carry, I should say.
I'm not against the whole constitutional carry thing.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so you're not against it. Josh is against it, but not against it.
Well, let's put it like this: if you're gonna do the
Do the due diligence.
thank you, and keep yourself up to date.
And
If you're not able to do a size grouping at 5 yards, you got to figure out what's going on.
An A-size grouping?
A size grouping,
Oh, okay.
center of the chest grouping.
Okay.
well, that just takes practice and time and to learn it.
And that's just it. If you can't do that, you got to work on it at 5 yards. That's equivalent to 15 feet. What was it? Most police interactions with police officers that result in a lethal result usually take place anywhere between 5 to 25 feet,
Yeah.
because that's where where pistols are the most accurate. Once you get out past 25, it starts to get real inaccurate, and 1 or 2 shots is not going to guarantee anything. I mean, you can, in all honesty, you can unload an entire magazine if that's from 7 rounds to 13 rounds or even up to 15 rounds, and the threat could still be coming towards you.
Yeah.
And obviously, as CCWs, the idea is to fire what we need to stop the threat.
Yeah. I guess I'm just not against the whole idea of the constitutional carrier. Just
I'm not, but for the benefit of everybody around you, do
what's
what you
the-
can and get to the range.
Oh well,
Be accurate with it.
that's yeah.
Be
But
con-
that's
I guess the biggest thing is be confident in your tool that you are using.
yes. Which obviously there's gonna be those people that are like, oh, I can do it just because I can do it. They might not be good at it, but they can do it.
Yeah, that's definitely the true case there.
Yeah.
There's definitely people I'd be like, before you carry, I think you need to go learn to aim. Like myself, I include myself in that.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to aim better. But
Oh,
now that I
right.
know that I'm left eye dominant, that explains a lot of things for me.
So yeah,
It's weird.
I'm not against it, but yeah, the thing is, I mean, you got to have people that you want people that are going to be effective about it and responsible about it. Because I mean, I guess the only reason I'm not against it is because of there's gonna be people that are bad that want to do whatever they want to do. They don't care whether there's a law about it or not.
That's a good summary of putting it. Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess, to me, to some degree, whether it's a law or not, because one way or another, people are going to do what they want to do, whether it's,
Fair
good
enough.
or not. So, I don't really care.
All right.
All I know is I got mine. So,
There you go. Well, this has been an interesting couple weeks.
yes, it has.
We reintroduced Josh into the deep end where it was supposed to be 1.5 hours maybe to cover 3 to 4 topics.
And it ended up being
And it ended up with this. It ended up with a couple mini cut extra things. And it ended up with a bonus thing of Josh going, what's your passion? What's your passion? I don't know where I was going.
I honestly don't.
Yeah, I don't either. I forgot the whole thing leading up to that.
All right.
I'm
My
pretty sure
brain
if I
is
listen
dead.
back to it, I'm gonna go, oh.
Oh, good. So the next time Josh is around, Josh will now go, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
And I guess we'll have to just kind of
Go with it,
phase
man.
into it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Josh, thank you,
That
sir,
hurts.
for coming in. I'm looking down at the recorder time, and the recording time says 6 hours, 45 minutes that we have been going at this straight.
My brain hurts.
So,
That's why I took Tylenol.
Josh, thank you again. And I'm sure we will definitely talk to you soon.
No, I won't. I won't be.
Oh, my goodness.
My head hurts.
I was thinking that would take an hour, hour and a half. I forgot the Josh factor.